We are recording this program at a pivotal moment in history. Donald Trump has already been sworn in as the President of the United States, and we find ourselves in a world where the right is increasingly winning elections, even though the left remains immensely popular. The progressive views of the left are passionately supported by people worldwide. Despite this fervent support, the left is still losing ground. Progressive parties are being defeated by conservative ones. When we look at the presidential race, we see that left-wing parties, regardless of whether their candidates are women or men, have very low ratings. Today's episode is dedicated to unraveling the reasons why the left is losing to the right. Why does it seem that these ideas, which allowed the left to triumph for many years and decades, are no longer resonating? I want you to delve into how these extreme approaches work, as I acknowledge that the left and the right have different and often extreme approaches to issues that concern our public life. More and more often, the call for progress, for openness, for being modern is met with resistance. More and more often, those who want to vote are heard, and the call for conservatism, for restoring the old hierarchy of values, for things to be as they used to be, is met with obedience. Let's begin. What is the reason behind my belief that the left has a harder time than the right? Why are people more willing to vote for right-wing conservative candidates today? I believe that the world's advancing chaos is the cause of this. This chaos has different dimensions. People are increasingly afraid, and they are afraid because of wars, such as the war in Ukraine. Economic crises are causing fear among them, as they are uncertain about their job prospects tomorrow. Will they be able to support their families? The reason for their fear is the pandemic and the possibility of a new one. These are very real elements that cause us to live in fear, but there are also more subjective feelings. The perception is that the old normative order is collapsing because reality is changing at a breakneck pace. It has always changed, but today we see that it is changing faster because we get information about it faster. The media, especially social media, operate in such a way that they feed us increasingly strange news. All this is to make us click on everything just so they can earn money. Because of this, the stranger, the more provocative, the more shocking the information, the better for the media and the worse for our peace of mind. Because it makes us feel like everything is collapsing. It starts to seem to people that there was an order before. For example, there were a man and a woman, and today we have something in between. We have transgender people, which for modern people, often for educated people, may not be a big problem. But for those of us who have a certain problem with accepting the chaos in the world exaggerated by the media, it may be a problem. Once there was generally one religion that everyone respected and no one ridiculed. Today, of course, there is a lot of this ridicule, and there is even more mockery. It should be noted that some of it is justifiable, such as the church's compromise in numerous areas. This causes people for whom these values are important to feel uneasy. When there is fear, it goes to God. Or when there is fear, then to a strong leader who says, "I will restore it all, I will fix it all, I will ensure that it happens as it did before." I think I have already told you that Karen Stenner, showing the division in society, defines a group called diversity avoiders and estimates it at about 30% in every society of people. These people do not like chaos or novelty. They are very often wise and intelligent people. They are simply constructed that way. They even have a problem with democracy because democracy is chaotic. Democracy is a cacophony of arguments every 4 years. There are elections, people accuse each other of all sorts of strange things, and journalists expose the mistakes of the government. Actually, if someone believes that a politician is good, they are immediately convinced that they are bad. There is no stability. But there are also people in society who we call promoters of diversity or bards of diversity. There are those who are so open-minded internally that they have no problem with the emergence of new things. These are people who like new things and who like to open up to new experiences. For these people, diversity, whether ethnic or national, religious, gender, or sexual diversity, is not a problem. You certainly know both of them. You certainly know those who want to live peacefully in a stable world, who are afraid of chaos and are not too open to new things. They have the right to this and can function here, and it is not in the other's business to interfere with them. You undoubtedly know those individuals who are always open to meeting new people. Their preference is for things to occur and for reality to change. Everyone has the right to be here, regardless of our differences. If chaos increases to a certain level, the number of individuals who avoid diversity increases, which is a problem. Out of that 30%, it can become 34%, 36%, or even 40%. This allows you to seize power, and if a populist leader does it, they can truly impose uniformity to stifle diversity. This is exactly what Trump is doing now in the United States. Right after taking power, he essentially promised to sign these executive acts that would restore uniformity. Deporting immigrants is seen as restoring some national uniformity, and changes in policies towards transgender people are also viewed as restoring uniformity. In a sense, Trump comes to power and declares that he will make everything revert to how it used to be. There will be no innovations, no new solutions. You can rest easy. This is a very compelling argument. One of the reasons the right wing wins is because of arguments like these. There are also many reasons why the left wing is losing, which stem from the actions of the left wing itself. I believe that Marxism, one of the significant philosophical trends influencing their thinking about society, people, competition, the relationship to work, and the relationship to those who have succeeded, is fundamentally flawed. But there's another element. The left is heavily tainted by its ideology. Can you see what I mean? It makes certain decisions or presents certain views based on ideological beliefs, not rational ones. People sense this and feel that something is off, leading to strange conclusions that are hard to accept and making it difficult to trust those who hold such peculiar positions. I'll give you two examples, one more distant and philosophical and the other more specific. The first example is the discussion about the definition of woman. Throughout the history of philosophy, sociology, and psychology, our increasing knowledge about human functioning and sexuality has led us to recognize that woman and man as two sexes do not cover the entire spectrum. This is a scientific fact that we acknowledge. There are people who experience gender dysphoria, who cannot identify with their gender because it is biological. This causes real suffering, and this issue cannot be underestimated. The right is attempting to create something peculiar out of it, mocking it. This position deserves criticism, not only in the context of the discussion about transgender people, but also in terms of social discrimination in general. A philosophical debate is raging about how to define a woman and why. If we define gender solely based on biology, we exclude meaningful aspects of a person's identity. This is why feminist philosophy in particular has sought to redefine what it means to be a woman. In the year 2000, Sally Haslanger, an outstanding and renowned feminist philosopher, proposed a definition of woman that I believe illustrates how ideological beliefs can obscure rationality. According to Haslanger's definition, person X is a woman if she is in a relationship of subordination in some legal, economic, or sociological dimension to others due to her biological characteristics, real or prescribed, and her role in human reproduction. This definition touches delicately on biological issues while emphasizing subordination and discrimination as defining characteristics of a woman. The goal is clear: to highlight these social relations and bring ideological value to a world where women are still discriminated against. But does it hold logical value? Critics, including some feminist critics, have pointed out something blatantly obvious. If subordination in society is the defining feature of a woman, then figures like Queen Elizabeth would not qualify as women since they are not subordinate. Queen Elizabeth was neither economically subordinate, given her wealth, nor legally subordinate. This exposes a significant problem in the definition. A more pressing issue arises if subordination and discrimination are essential for defining a woman. What happens if the left succeeds in abolishing discrimination and subordination? By Haslanger's definition, there would be no women left, because no one would be in a relationship of subordination or discrimination. This absurd conclusion shows a significant flaw in Haslanger's definition. Her ideas, even those formulated at MIT, a prestigious university, can lead to utterly illogical outcomes. When ideology replaces logic, the results are often difficult to accept. This has been widely discussed globally and does not support the fight against discrimination. When ideological mistakes replace rationality and lead to absurdity, it undermines trust in the leftist narrative. Turning to America, I want to illustrate how the right wing operates. American presidents can issue executive orders, a powerful tool in their political arsenal. In the United States, the president has much more control than in many other countries. Donald Trump used this power to push a single-minded agenda. For example, he declared a state of emergency on the southern border with Mexico to increase protection against migrants. Many of the orders he signed addressed immigration and what to do with illegal residents in the U.S. More controversially, he addressed issues of human sexuality, specifically criticizing leftist ideologies that focus heavily on discrimination. Trump campaigned on rejecting progressive views on diversity, gender, and sexuality. He promoted a simplistic view that there are only two sexes, male and female, just like before. This stance denies medically and psychologically the established facts and reinforces a black and white worldview, ignoring the gray areas where people suffer genuinely. There have been past instances where the state tried to deny facts through politics or legal regulations. For example, in the 1920s, the United States enacted laws prohibiting teaching the theory of evolution in schools, mandating creationism instead. History shows us that when the state attempts to override scientific realities with political edicts, it ends disastrously. This is not an argument of strength, but the strength of an argument. Politically, you might understand Trump's actions, as he promised his voters to sort out what they see as chaos. However, imposing a vision of the world that ignores the complexities and suffering in the gray areas is neither healthy nor just. Trying to change reality by force of law is both misguided and dangerous. No law or executive order can eliminate the existence of people who do not fit neatly into binary categories. Thank you for joining me in today's program. For the next episode of Law and Reason, I look forward to seeing you again. Take care.